If your curls fall limp and flat, maybe they frizz up very easily, they struggle to hold a curl, and they just feel overly soft and silky, then you likely need to make some of these swaps in your routine. But no matter what your hair type is, you can definitely still apply these tips and tricks if you struggle with getting longevity out of your wash day routines. And I'm also using mostly drugstore products. And don't miss step number 3 because it's one of the most critical swaps that you probably need to make. My name is Gina and welcome back to my channel. Here we talk all things naturally curly. I love simplifying your routine and helping you problem solve with your curls. So let's get started. Before I begin with the styling, I wanted to share a couple of important pointers when it comes to your shampoos, conditioners, and your wash day process if you struggle with very fine hair that's overly soft and silky. And the first really important thing to consider is the cleansing ability of your shampoo. You want to make sure that you're using stronger shampoos for both your everyday type of shampoo, like your regular shampoo, and clarifying. If you're not already rotating in a clarifying shampoo, make sure you're doing that at least once a month. You can definitely do it a little bit more frequently if your hair does get weighed down very easily. Then for your regular shampoo, it needs to actually have a good lather. Do not be using co-washes or very moisturizing cleansers because that's just going to deposit too many conditioning ingredients on your hair, and you want to have a clean scalp, especially if you struggle with an oily scalp. For today, I went with the Mielle exfoliating shampoo. This is a really good drugstore clarifying shampoo, and it also removes hard water minerals, and it's not too stripping. As you can see, it is a white color, so that indicates that it does have some moisturizing ingredients in it, so it's not too stripping for the hair. Then when it comes to conditioners, they need to be a lightweight, which I know can be really difficult to find, especially in the curly hair space. And you also do want to still be deep conditioning. Now, you definitely don't have to deep condition as frequently with someone that has very healthy hair, very fine hair. You could do as little as once a month or less depending on your hair's health. But if your hair does get dry or if it is damaged, you are going to need to incorporate deep conditioning. You just have to be very mindful of how much you're using and making sure you're fully rinsing it out. Today I went with this Dove Bond Strength deep conditioner. This was my first time testing it out. I wanted to try it and see how it would work, but I think this would be a little bit too softening for somebody with hair that is overly soft, so I would skip this. This might not be something you want to go with if your hair is soft because it does contain a silicone and it also has coconut oil in it. I didn't find it to be too heavy or anything, but I find that silicones make the hair feel very soft and silky, which my hair type can benefit from, but they can make it overly soft if your hair is very fine. They're good at that, but sometimes that can be a downside. So I'm going to link you to other alternatives on the blog post that goes with this video for both shampoos, conditioners, clarifiers, and deep conditioners that are lightweight, and then shampoos that are stronger. And last but not least, you want to incorporate proteins and bond building ingredients, which is also why I went with this one today. So it has both protein and bond repairing ingredients in it. So it is going to help to strengthen the hair. Proteins are really going to help to create structure in the hair, strengthen the hair so that way it can hold its shape a lot better. So if your curls are falling, if they're very limp, you might need some protein in your routine. So I would do a bond building treatment like Olaplex or Curlsmith Bond Curl. I need to keep testing this one, so I can't fully recommend this yet when it comes to bond building, but anything that says like strengthening on the label. Now I'm ready to style, so I'm just going to remove my hair repair towel and then mist my hair down with some water. So our first step and tip for very soft hair is to reduce water weight. If you didn't know, styling soaking wet could be weighing down your hair. Water weighs down the hair. It's heavy, it's moisture, it's that hydration that is weighing down the hair. So if you're currently styling in the shower, if you're styling over the tub, soaking wet, you might want to try using a little bit less water in your hair. Now, people who have wavy hair definitely benefit from soaking wet styling because it creates more curl clumps and definition. So if you do still want to style soaking wet, if you get better results, make sure you don't miss step number 5 of this routine because I will show you a way that you can still style soaking wet but reduce the overall water weight and speed up your dry time. So the goal is for the hair to just be evenly wet. Our second tip or step is to skip curl creams, leave-ins, and just use a gel or a mousse. So just like with water, moisturizing creamy products will weigh down the hair, especially if your hair is also fine and or low porosity. So this hair type can get weighed down very easily, and the more creamy products, it's going to weigh down the hair, make it more elongated, and also reduce your hold. A lot of you are struggling with your hair not holding and being overly soft, you're not getting a cast. Reduce the amount of water and creamy products underneath of your gel. So there's a couple of different ways that you can do this. You can do just a leave-in conditioner that's very lightweight plus a stronghold gel, or you could just go with a stronghold gel that is moisturizing. Today I'm going to do the lightweight leave-in plus gel method. So I'm going to first use the Not Your Mother's Curl Talk leave-in conditioner. This is a spray leave-in, so it has a spray nozzle. Anytime you see a product that is a spray like this, it's going to be more lightweight. I like just spraying my products in my hand, but I also want to show you how this is more watered down. See how thin that consistency is? That's what we want for moisturizing products that aren't going to weigh down your hair. And watch out for ingredients like shea butter, coconut oil, mango butter, any butter ingredient really, or those heavier oils. You don't want to see those at high concentration on the ingredients label. So that would be at the top or multiple different ones at the top of the ingredients label. Now, this isn't always an indicator of the weight of the product because sometimes oils can be formulated to be a little bit more lightweight. So you really do have to go off of testing the product, but you can definitely look for ones in the spray bottle like this. Less is more when it comes to hair that gets weighed down easily. I'm just going to brush it through to ensure it's evenly distributed. This next step is probably the most important, and that is because if you're using the wrong gel or not a strong enough hold gel or mousse or some sort of styling product in your hair is not going to last. It's going to fall by the end of the day, and it's going to require so much refreshing on next day hair. The goal is for your hair to not need much done to it on day 2, and hopefully into day 3 and 4 you don't have to do a full refresh and be soaking your hair daily. We do want our hair to last in between wash days. Today I'm going with the Not Your Mother's Curl Talk Hard Hold Gel. This is the level 5 hold, not their original, that's a level 3. So if you are gonna get this, make sure it's this one that I will link you to. They recently updated the name of this gel, and I believe it's called like the Flash Freeze Gel or something, but I did confirm that the ingredients are the same. What you want to avoid when it comes to selecting the right gel for your hair is something that is going to soften the hair and be very slippery, and you might even want to avoid very thin gels. Now, a lot of times you will see me use gels that are very thin and slippery. That's actually what I prefer for my hair type, which is more medium to coarse. I don't struggle with softness personally, but I'm still doing this video because I've learned so much from talking to so many of you all in my coaching sessions that a lot of you are struggling with this. So one thing that you'll want to look for is those thicker gels. So I will show you what this looks like. This is usually the type of gel that I don't go with for my hair type, but it's great for this hair type. So if you can see how thick this gel is, it's one of those thicker gels where you kind of have to rub it between your palms. You might even have to add some water, which is another good tip that will kind of dilute it. It is probably going to reduce the hold a little bit, but if you just add a little bit of water, it will help you spread it better and you get like this creamier consistency. So now it's much easier to apply. What I don't like are those gels that are thick and sticky, but then they're also drying on the hair. I've definitely tried quite a few, but going back to what to avoid, a lot of the gels that I love, like the Ouidad Advanced Climate Control gel or the AG Liquid Effects, like those gels are very thin and slippery, so they work great for my hair type, but they might be too softening for your hair type. Now, slip doesn't always indicate softening, but a lot of times it does because that's that slippery, soft feeling in the hair. But the Ouidad gel also contains a lot of moisturizing ingredients. It's a very moisturizing gel and it has ingredients that soften the hair. It doesn't have silicones, but it does give almost a similar feeling to silicones where it's very soft and silky. So if you tried that gel and it didn't work for you, that could be why. You might need either something that's more lightweight or something that gives more texture and grit. It's kind of like that sticky, tacky feeling. It's not always a bad feeling. It is for like my coarser areas, that's what we don't want. But for hair that's overly soft and silky, texture and grit in products can help give it more grip so the hold actually lasts. So if your hair falls very easily, you might need more of that texture and grit. Now, this doesn't always equal hold. There are products like texturizing sprays and foams and mousses and things that don't always give you hold, but they do give you texture and grit. So they give you that gritty feeling, that producty feeling in the hair, but they don't always have hold. So maybe you like the feeling of a really slippery gel that gives you good hold, but you're just not getting that longevity. What you could do is add in a texturizing product. So that could be a texturizing spray, a foam. A lot of times foams give texture to the hair to help volumize, because that's another great benefit of texture and grit is it creates long-lasting volume. Like when you fluff up your hair and you have that grit at the root, the volume will actually stay. But not all the time. I've definitely tried foams that aren't very texturizing, so you wouldn't want to go with those. You'll have to kind of go off of testing or my experience with the products to know. To keep things simple again, just like I mentioned with using a strong hold gel that's texturizing, you could just go with a mousse. That's usually going to give you more texture and grit to the hair. And you can also just use it by itself if it has enough hold in it. So the Not Your Mother's Curl Talk Mousse is a great alternative if you don't like a thick gel like this and you want something even more lightweight that's still going to give you strong hold and humidity protection. Go with the mousse. I recently used that mousse in a volume routine. The mousse is not too drying. I still paired it with a leave-in conditioner underneath. This one would go great under it, but you can use that by itself, and that's gonna give you strong hold, humidity protection, and texture and grit. And it's not too gritty either. It's like just a small amount. Another option would be to just use a hairspray as your main styling product. I've seen people do this. I haven't tried it yet on my hair because my hair would probably dry out from this. But if you're using a hairspray that's at least alcohol-free, like a water-based hairspray that's in a spray that has water in it, that's not gonna be as drying, you could do just like leave-in conditioner, style your hair with a brush, and then just like scrunch in hairspray in sections. That's another great way. Or use gel in your regular products, then just top it off with a hairspray. So there's a lot of different options you can try, but just knowing which products usually do provide texture and grit is going to help you kind of customize your routine to get the results you want. Another thing about that hairspray method that I mentioned, that's going to be the most lightweight way to get in hold. So if you're like, all gels way down my hair and nothing gives me enough hold, maybe you should just try using a hairspray. That would be the way to get maximum hold with the least amount of moisture. Now let's talk about a styling technique. So I am currently brush styling. That's my preferred method of styling because using a brush is going to help smooth out the hair. I do have some coarse areas, as I mentioned, and those tend to feel very like brittle and frizzy and they don't clump very good. So brush styling helps me create more curl clumps and just smooth everything out. Now you definitely don't have to go crazy with brush styling, and in fact you want to actually create smaller curl clumps if you want to reduce the weight. That way your hair doesn't start to elongate or droop or fall throughout the day. So this is the Bounce Curl Volume Edge Lift Brush that has the smaller grooves, whereas the original one has thicker grooves. You can definitely still use that. You're just going to need to separate some curl clumps if they're too large. So as you can see, when you brush with this brush, it separates the hair all at once. So it's pretty quick. You can just kind of brush through all at once like that. And you can see it creates these like smaller, more separated curl clumps. Whereas the other one creates like thick clumps. Thick clumps are great, especially if you have wavy hair, you might be totally fine with them. But if your hair is like drooping and falling, or if it's taking forever to dry, it could be that your clumps are too large. So a lot of times you will see me just kind of like separate the ones that have grouped together and formed too large clumps. And then that actually creates more volume and fullness as well. If you have lower density hair like me, you definitely don't want your hair to be overly clumped. But the more clumped and defined your hair is, the longer it's going to last. This is why I recommend at least doing some sort of styling technique. It doesn't have to be a brush, but something to enhance your curl pattern. Your hair's gonna last so much longer. Whenever I just like scrunch in my products and go as is, my hair never lasts as long. Like it always ends up more stringy. It kind of gets puffy. That's the best way I can describe it. Like it just expands because it's not clumped, and I end up with a lot of like stringy frizz. It just doesn't last. It doesn't hold up by the end of the day. Whereas when I take the time to style it, at least for the problem areas, you don't have to style your whole head. It lasts so much longer because the hair is more defined. If your hair is wavy, brush styling might just not be beneficial for you. Like you could still use a brush to smooth the hair and help clump the hair, but it might not do much to enhance your waves or curls. Like it might straighten it out a little bit, just depends on your technique, but you can use scrunching to then enhance your waves. If you like brush styling, but you just can't quite get the hang of it, the easiest thing to do is literally just brush the section with some tension. So I like going over my head and pointing the brush downward and then you can just like brush with a little bit of tension. Just like in step number 1, we need to reduce the water weight in our hair, especially right before we go into diffuse or air dry. Not only speed up our dry time, but also to ensure that the hair doesn't become weighed down. Take your hair towel, ideally where it's already wet. So I used this hair towel when I got out of the shower to wrap my hair so it's wet. So it's not gonna absorb too much product if it's already wet, or you can kind of just mist it with water and then scrunch your hair with it. And this is going to soak up the excess water. I definitely need to do this step today because I styled with more water than I usually do because that gel is so thick. So if you're someone who styled soaking wet, if you have wavy hair and you love soaking wet styling to get good curl clumps, you have to be removing that excess water before you go in and diffuse. You can't go in and diffuse your hair when it's sopping wet, or even with air drying. You don't want to be air drying for hours and hours on end with soaking wet hair. So I'm just gently going around and scrunching. I'm not roughing up the hair too much. You can also kind of lift the hair away from the scalp. That way you're not pressing the product onto your scalp. You don't want to get your products on your scalp. And this will also help to create a lot of root lift. So if you struggle with your curls not curling at the root, you can kind of lift them or pinch it at the root and then scrunch all the way up to the top. You want to wait and do this when you're happy with how your hair looks, which is why I do this after I'm done styling, because once the hair starts to dry, it's going to set in that position. What I don't recommend is plopping, which is the technique where you wrap your hair up in a hair towel. And the reason I don't recommend that is because it presses your wet hair with product into your scalp, which not only gets the product on your scalp and can cause scalp buildup, but it also can kind of mush and flatten your roots. I just recommend doing the micro plopping. It's a better technique to where you're avoiding those potential issues, but you're still getting the same benefits of absorbing that excess water. And definitely do not be sleeping in a plop. That's just a recipe for scalp conditions. The second part of this step is to add a little bit of extra gel, mousse, or hairspray to tame frizz and increase your hold. So when you do that micro plopping step, it is going to absorb the excess water, but it also can remove some product. And as we've talked about, you need to have strong hold in your hair, and strong hold is achieved by hair that is a little bit drier. So when I do this, I just add a little bit to my hand. We don't want to layer on too much product. And then I usually do add water to just dilute it. And I just kind of like glaze it on the surface, and that will tame that frizz. You can also kind of smooth it in like this. That praying hands technique that might kind of straighten it out a bit, but it should bounce back when you scrunch. I would avoid layering on a bunch of products though. Like, you don't really need to be using multiple gels unless if you just find a combo that really works. Step number 6 is to diffuse instead of air drying. So this is another one of the most important steps if your curls fall quickly. Air drying is going to result in more elongated curls, whereas diffusing freezes the curls in place and sets your cast, reducing frizz. The heat from the diffuser will also help to set the curl shape so that way it lasts longer. You can plop your hair over a flat surface, then hover, or go straight to scrunching with your diffuser. If you want to hover to reduce frizz, but you don't want your hair to become super elongated, then plopping it over a flat surface can definitely help, or just go straight to scrunch diffusing, which is what I do a lot of the times. If you are going for more of an elongated look where you don't mind if your curls stretch out, then you can totally just hover the whole time, and that's going to result in a more elongated, more frizz-free look. I actually dried my hair today in just over 8 minutes, which I think is the fastest dry time that I've had. So I definitely think removing a lot of that excess water through micro plopping first helped, because my hair felt pretty dry after I started micro plopping. But I recommend the Curlsmith Diffusion XXL diffuser because it dries my hair fast using less heat. There are also holes in the prongs of the diffuser head, so that way the air can actually reach the roots. You want to get your hair as dry as you can to prevent the curls from falling. And if you're short on time, you could diffuse until you're happy with the curl shape and then finish air drying, but just know that you might have some elongation happening during that air drying process. But if you set the curl cast and set the shape, you should be good to go if you do need to run and finish air drying. Step number 7 is optional, and that is to set your hair with a hairspray, not an oil. So typically at this step, after you finish diffusing your hair, a lot of people will go in with a hair oil to scrunch out the crunch. But oils are designed to soften the hair. They add shine, they help to lock in moisture. but they create softness and condition the hair. That's what we don't want if your hair is overly soft. And if your hair is like low porosity, you probably already have some natural shine and don't need it. You can totally scrunch out the crunch with just dry hands. And I say dry hands because if you go in with hands that are kind of damp, or maybe you have some residual products on there and they're sticky, it will create frizz because your hands will then stick to your hair. But I like just going in with dry hands. Sometimes I use oils, they have their time and place and they're great for shine, but a lot of times just use your hands and then you need less products. But what you can do instead, if your hair really is falling and it's not holding, is use a hairspray. So I would recommend first scrunching out the cast and kind of fluffing out your hair, getting it the way you like it. Then you can mist your hair with hairspray. So this is the Curlsmith Flawless Finish. This is the flexible hold version. They have a strong hold version as well, but this is alcohol free. So this is not like your classic hairspray, like a lot of the drugstore ones where they're super drying and not great for curly hair. It is a good finisher and it does help create a lot of texture and grit. One of my favorite curl friends, Courtney from Swavy Curly Courtney, she swears by this tip of leaving the cast in for as long as possible. So I wanted her to share some tips that are for this hair type because that's the hair type that she has, where her hair is very silky, it's healthy, it's lower porosity, it is wavy, and so her hair falls very easily. So what she likes to do is leave her cast in as long as possible because, again, that cast, like we talked about, is helping to hold the curl shape. It kind of freezes the curls into those curl clumps and into that curl formation. So leaving them in is going to help that last a lot longer. So if you are going to be going out in humidity or out in the wind, or if you're going to bed, or if you're traveling, definitely leave that cast in as long as you can. Another tip that Courtney shared with us is to skip your conditioner and just use a leave-in conditioner as your rinse out conditioner, or you could leave in your leave-in conditioner. So if your hair is getting overly soft, even from your conditioner, try swapping it out with your spray leave-in. So you could take this with you in the shower, spray it on your hair after you shampoo and either just leave it or maybe scrunch out some of the excess. Or if your hair gets super weighed down, then maybe rinse it out fully, and that's enough of that lightweight conditioning on the hair. So thank you so much to Courtney for sharing some tips with us for this video. I'm gonna have her channel linked down below, but stay tuned because I have a couple more things to share with you, including my day 2 results. What do you all think of these results? It definitely feels very lightweight and I have a lot of volume. My hair actually doesn't feel too sticky and gritty, maybe because I skipped that hairspray and still use the leave-in, but I definitely get really good volume whenever I use these Curl Talk products, both with the hard hold gel and their mousse. I always get really good volume in my hair. It feels really nice and airy and lightweight. If you've tried all of these tips and tricks and you're still not getting long-lasting results, then I want to talk with you in a coaching session so that way we can actually get to the bottom of what is causing this to happen in your curls, because you should at least be getting to day 2 without having to fully refresh your hair. I recently helped a client with this exact problem and I wanted to share some of her story with you. She mentioned how her hair was feeling super soft and kind of fuzzy. She said she couldn't figure out if her hair needed more moisture or if she was over moisturizing her hair, because a lot of times we confuse needing moisture with just a lack of hold. So we helped kind of talk through those differences. And she was saying how her hair just doesn't look good past day 1 despite following the advice in all of my videos. So when we met, we walked through every step of her wash day routine and I pointed out changes that I noticed that she should try and make to help solve these issues that she hadn't even thought of before. And after we met, I provided her a follow-up guide which included the exact steps for the things she needed to test next using the existing products that she already had and what she might need to swap out. And here's what she had to say. I'm so thankful that she left this review because it truly shows how you can just sometimes make a simple swap in your routine and see a difference almost immediately. And the best part is she said she actually loves her refresh results now, which is like the best thing that I could hear from you all. That's really the goal, to help save you time and money in your routine so that way you're not having to spend so much time restyling your hair every day. So thank you to my curl coaching client and all of you who have shared your experience and how those sessions have really helped you out. I've thoroughly enjoyed doing them. So if you're interested in having one of these done for yourself, check it out in the description box down below, or you can just DM me the word coaching on Instagram or email me and we can chat about if it's the right fit for you, if you're not sure which session is right for you, and if it can benefit you with your current problem. Definitely let me know and we can talk about it. And if you're also not sure if your hair might be over moisturized moisturize, then check out the video that I will have linked for you right here on the screen. It's all about the signs that you might be over moisturizing your hair and how to fix it. So I walk you through a step-by-step wash day routine to fix over moisturized hair, which is very similar to a lot of what we shared here, but a little bit of a different scenario. So I will talk to you over there. Bye everyone.